international environmental treaties, Madam Speaker, because without developmental guarantee, then no country will actually participate in the process. So we do acknowledge that economic development and environment protection can go together. They seem to just have this black and white logic that when you achieve environmental protection, suddenly your economy will be destroyed. But Mr. Speaker, is that really the case? It's not really do so. You develop while minimizing the damage on the environment. You can still try to reduce the emission level that you have for greenhouse gases, but at the same time, try to develop and have green factories installed to develop economy. So we think economic development and environment protection is not mutually exclusive, and that falls and that's why they fail. And also on the second level, Madam Speaker, they said that they won't then go to conferences. But is that really true, Madam Speaker? We actually have seen after the Rio conference that first discussed climate change, there has been numerous international conventions. There has been numerous international conferences that where numerous nations of the world participated, despite the fact that yes, maybe it might harm your economy. We see that developed countries, first of all, have incentives, as my member told you, because they have to spend massive amount of money in recoveries of developing countries. At the same time, if they are damaged, they will also be the one to spend money for their own recovery. And we also talked to how developing countries are the ones primary victims of this climate change because they heavily depend on agriculture. Their industry itself is dependent on primary industry, and if their environment is damaged through climate change, what way do they have? They say the opening government said they can go to factories, but Madam Speaker, a lot of countries in Africa, that is 70% is agriculture. Just because your 30% is somehow hinder the bed doesn't mean that your economy will suddenly collapse, and the 70% people lose this job. Is that really good for your economy? We think that we should protect the larger share. No, thank you. And also on the third level, how urgent is the issue? The Kyoto Protocol has failed because the people have not participated. Exactly so, Madam Speaker. We think that all nations should ratify this target to make Kyoto Protocol or whatever protocol that we have effective, Madam Speaker. We think the reason the failure of the Kyoto Protocol is the not full participation of the nations, and we think by allowing this, by forcing these countries to participate, we'll be able to achieve the goals. And we think the mechanism itself was very good because we had the same goal. Under that, we allowed different approaches. We also think that the urgency issue is a bit different because in the past, when Rio was first there, people didn't really realize that the seriousness of climate change. It has been 14 years, Madam Speaker. The urgency is very different. Countries are thinking, including your country, Japan. We also think that it's very urgent and that the urgency issue is changing. So going into the first question that I had before I do this.
Okay, can you give me any examples of success of dollars? Because we said you harm national sovereignty, which like harms like organic changes.
The reason why there has been big success because countries don't participate fully. We think that all nations that signed that treaty should participate and should ratify the legal targets to achieve the goals, and action should be involved. No, thank you. And the first question, is climate change really an urgent issue? We told you that it is so. It not only affects your country, even if your country is not affected, the other countries are damaged by your action. If China emits CO2 in your country, the action undermines the effort made in South Korea to target or combat climate change. And let's say some country didn't really care about climate change, still be damaged because the climate is regulated. Therefore, we think that it's not really a sovereign issue, but it's more of a transnational, international issue that everybody should be responsible, everybody should take action to. So we think the sovereignty issue is not really a problem in the status quo, in that motion, that actually it's an international issue that everyone has to participate, everyone has to make efforts to. On the second question, Madam Speaker, is international approach better? Helen already told you how international approach allows this room for diversity. And we think actually that tackles the argument that comes from the opening and the closing opposition saying that people will suddenly see economic destruction. But we think that first of all, setting a uniform goal in principle is actually good because without that goal, we don't have any guarantee that countries will participate or countries will make some efforts to combat climate change. So setting a goal itself is very important. And then we allow different approaches to achieve that goal, considering the different conditions and different situations countries are in. We also think that binding targets are especially necessary because it involves action. The past treaties or past conventions that only emphasize the principles didn't really have that much of an effect because it didn't involve action. It didn't really require the actual policies to meet the targets. We also think by having international cooperation, it will lead to more exchange of technology, exchange of resources, unlike the opposition say, because we think that to achieve that same goal, it requires cooperation under that mechanism. And on the third level, then what kind of impact would it have? Madam Speaker and Mr. Speaker, they say that it will victimize the poor. It will be bad for economic development. Then, Madam Speaker, we already proven to how the poor is the one who will be most affected by the climate change. We already told you how both developing countries and developed countries have a stake under this issue. So we think that actually it helps both parties by participating in this motion. We also think that this meeting targets in the national treaty doesn't really mean that your economy will suddenly be destroyed. So we think that on the impact level, the action will be involved. We will be able to achieve something finally out of our international treaty. That's why we think that all nations should ratify the international binding targets.
Thank the government whip, and to close the whole debate, we now welcome the opposition whips.
Please imagine BP adjudication. If you discuss maybe 5% or 6% or 30%, actually it is very difficult to make consensus. That is what our extension. We say sometimes the international consensus is very, very, very difficult. It's especially in this issue, the economic incentive is very relatively. So therefore we say it is not good for the tackling this environmental issue. Moreover, we say we have to show the role model for the every country, and making the voluntary incentive to tackle with this problem is a very important we say, and they never engaged. Anyway, I have the two issues. First issue is about the workability of this international protocol. And secondly, why the voluntary incentive is important. So anyway, I want to point out the crucial failure of these four government sides. As MC pointed out, OG actually not good. Yes. The Supreme Court, they generally said international is important, but they never told you that. Why it is workable? Why such kind of they can make the consensus? They never told you. And CC is a little bit better. They somehow try to say the international achievement or international purpose or international agreement has a strong idea or strong power to force them everything. However, Mr. Speaker, big crucial failure. They never proved us why such kind of agreement or discussion can be going well. Why such kind of agreement or purpose can be a good for the environment. But my partner clearly pointed out to such kind of agreement or consensus can be very, very, very big stance, Mr. Speaker. So therefore we say it is not workable. And the government whip told you that. Our burden of proof is that maybe they participate in this discussion and that's all. But we say this burden of proof is totally low and low and low. They have to prove why such kind of discussion or agreement can be made very, very situation or can be tackled to the environmental situation or so. They never proved for us. So therefore we say they're okay, bye-bye. Anyway, first criteria about the workability. Firstly, we say the voluntary incentive is important, and international consensus or so forth doesn't work anyway. And OG also agreed. When I do the point of information and I say why the voluntary incentive is important, and the PM, maybe PM? Anyway, they respond that. Yeah, I know that the nation sees the benefit of their past, the nation also. So therefore, Kyoto Protocol is failed. They told you that. Yeah, of course. So therefore, the Kyoto Protocol is failed because the nation has a strong incentive to protect their benefit, to protect their economy. So therefore we say, even after taking this proposal, because they never proved us why such kind of incentive will change. So therefore, such kind of protocol or agreement will fail, Mr. Speaker. So therefore, we say the workability doesn't happen. And moreover, we say, my partner clearly told you that even if they can make agreement between the whole nation, this agreement can be very weak to tackle to the environmental problem. We agree that environmental problem is bad, and we have to solve such kind of things. However, Mr. Speaker, such kind of weak agreement or weak consensus is more harm to our tackle. That's simply because because of the existence of the weak agreement, they neglect the effort, making the effort to tackle with such kind of things. So because such kind of strong power of the CG told you that, because, yeah, of course, yeah, I know the international purpose or international consensus, I do that. That's all. I don't have any duty to tackle with such kind of things. Such kind of sense, such kind of incentive for every country is but the crucial failure is why such kind of strong agreement can be achieved. In this case, they never told you. And again, yeah, okay.
The good thing about having a uniform goal is that it requires action from even those who would not voluntarily engage, Madam Speaker, therefore achieving the result out of such agreements.
Yeah, but please tell me that why this goal can be enough to tackle environmental problem. We clearly told you such kind of goal can be very lower and lower and lower. So therefore we say we cannot tackle to the such kind of environmental problem. Okay? And secondly, we say that about the why voluntary incentive is a very, very important. Yeah. Yeah, clearly told you that. Yeah. The solvency is important. And my partner further extended to you that why such kind of consensus or why such kind of domestic consensus is important. Why such kind of developing country person or developed country person can see the role model is a very, very important. If people can see about the very good sustainable development role model, actually they can accept such kind of suggestion, Mr. Speaker. But under the status quo, this cannot be happen. So simply because all nation, all person knows that the USA or Japan or some kind of thing, other country can be rich because they emit many CO2 or so forth. They just only see this role model, Mr. Speaker.